Be honest. Do you think of yourself as being really bad at sales? Does your stomach drop at the thought of hopping on a sales call with someone and having to actually pitch your services? Here's the thing. You are not bad at sales. The problem is that your nervous system is screaming at you every time you try to sell because nobody has taught us how to work with that. It is a normal, natural thing that our nervous systems yell that this is a dangerous situation every time we go into a sales call. But no one has taught us how to work with that instead of white knuckling through it. So today I brought on an expert who totally gets it. Jennifer Liss is a somatic coach, a breathwork facilitator, and she hosts a podcast with probably the best name ever for a podcast, which is Fuck Around and Get Paid. I love it. And that is really the energy that we all need in our businesses. She helps entrepreneurs break free from those invisible blocks that make selling feel like actual hell. And I think all of us have experienced that before. And she does it by teaching her clients how to regulate their nervous systems so they can show up to selling from a place of play, not panic. We are diving into why selling activates our fight or flight response, what regulated versus dysregulated sales actually looks and feels like. And this is my favorite part, the ridiculously simple practice that Jen swears by before every sales call. Spoiler alert, it involves shaking your hips, and no, I am not kidding. This episode is for you if you've ever felt pushy or desperate or like you're performing in your sales conversations. Let's dive in and fix that. Hey, beautiful human. You're listening to Bold Women in Business, the show where strategy meets soul in marketing, branding, and business growth. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, messaging and branding strategist, content queen, and compulsive meeting maker. Every week, I'll help you ditch the cookie cutter playbook and build a brand that actually sounds like you, sells like hell, and feels so damn good to show up for. Let's get bold. Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited, especially after having listened to your podcast for so long. I just am so excited to have you here on my podcast. So why don't you, before we dive in, just give a quick introduction to who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into this episode.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited for this chat. So my name is Jennifer Liss, and I help entrepreneurs to make money the fun way. That's my short intro.
I love it. I love
Make
it.
money the fun way and making sales and marketing fun, which of course on that marketing lens is where you and I meet. Like these things that tend to be difficult and people hit dead ends on, I help them to do that. And primarily through recognizing that we have certain things in our nervous system that are stopping it from being fun. And so opening the doorway to F you in, which is actually a lot of people's least favorite F word. Strangely.
I love it. Let's just start there. Why is selling so hard for our nervous systems? Like, why?
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 Why ask why? At a base level, because we make it about us versus making it about the other person. And so that's the primary reason that it's difficult, is because we make the selling about us. And when something is about us, if you go into a conversation with somebody and there is a threat to you, a threat to your safety, a threat to who you are, which sounds wild. I'm just going in to have a sales conversation with somebody, but your nervous system recognizes genuine threat of judgment, genuine threat of failure, genuine threat of this might not be perfect and I really want to do a good job. All of those things that your nervous system has recognized, I need to care for myself and take care of myself and protect myself, then you're going to have a hard time. So there's a big script flip that gets to happen for us around, oh, this isn't about me, this is about the other person. But to get there and actually allow it to be about the other person, we've got to find safety within ourselves and our own nervous system. So that's what I have learned over time through my own sales experience, because I was not originally a great salesperson. You know, I became the go-to salesperson for a multi-million-dollar company and have sold millions of dollars of coaching products at this level of my game. But I was not that person at first. I was not that person at first. But I learned over time how to do that work.
So what was selling like before for you? And then how did that shift into becoming something that is now fun?
How honest can I be on your podcast, Rachel?
You can be absolutely as honest as you feel comfortable, really.
It was hell. It was hell. It was actual, like, physical hell trying to sell because I was trying to sell, but I didn't understand that. So my journey, I was a hairstylist for many years. That was my original career. And it built through one person telling another person, telling another person. I kid you not, by the end of my hair career, I could place back 75%. And this is no joke. 75% of my people came from one of my very first clients that I ever had. She was actually the very first person who ever sat down in my chair. So I built a business through one-to-one personal connection over a decade, right? So, and I had a very thriving, successful business. But when I left that career, I went into marketing and I did that for a while, burned out in corporate. Well, then I decided, okay, it's time for me to support other people. I want to be a coach. So I go to build that business. Now I'm in this online landscape. It's not just like one person tells another person, or at least it didn't feel that way to me. One person tells another person, tells another person. It was like this whole new world of like, I have to put myself on camera. I've got to put myself out there, and then people come to me, right? That's what we see happening in the online world. I'm Sage on the stage, and then people come to me. And so I'm trying that, and it was not working. It was not working at all. I found myself on my bed, curled up in a ball, and I screamed to God. My husband's at work. My neighbors probably heard it. Like, why? Like, why am I here? Why are you having me do this? Please show me a sign if I am meant to be doing this, because this sucks. Nobody's buying my stuff, and it's embarrassing, and I feel terrible. And so that was the turning point, because when I surrendered on that day, curled up in a ball on my bed, that opened me up to the possibility of learning how to sell. The very next day, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need some support on our team. Do you have time?" And I was like, "Do I have time?" Yes, because no clients are calling me.
Yeah.
That experience, ultimately, I didn't know it at the time, but that experience, they ended up needing help with sales. That's actually what they were asking me to do. I didn't know that when I signed up, or they wouldn't have hired me, and I would have said, like, we didn't know. But it ended up teaching me all of the things that I now have turned around and I teach to people, because I know what a struggle it can be as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for sharing that, honestly, because I think probably 100% of people listening to this can relate to that, myself included. Like, I've had those moments also, and I've talked about them on the podcast, but like that feeling of like, I'm putting all this effort in and nothing is working, and you feel like such a failure. I think there's just that sense of like, what is my purpose here if this isn't working? And I don't know how you think about this, but I think we have a very black and white way of looking at success, and we have very narrow ways of looking at success. So when things don't line up with those narrow views, we feel like if you're not succeeding, you're failing, right? And really, there's so much in between, and there's so much that can happen in between. And yes, the selling part is like this visceral nervous system, like overload thing that we don't know what to do with. And we're going to dive a lot into that. But I think just the overall idea of putting effort into something and it not working, things can look different than we think that they do. And that journey that you went through of reaching that point of having to surrender, and then getting this opportunity and learning and coming back and doing things in a different way, that's all part of the process. And when you look back, it's like, oh, wow, like it's pretty fucking cool that you actually went through that experience and you wound up here, even though in the moment it feels pretty shitty.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey, and we're all on it. We're all at some point along that journey. You're either in the climb, or you're at the top of the mountain, or you think you're at the top of the mountain, but it's actually the false mountain. I've climbed a mountain. Let me tell you about the false mountain. Like, we're almost there. Oh, wait, we still have 3 more hours. So as entrepreneurs, if you're that person who's at the top of the false mountain and you're looking and feeling a little bit disillusioned, that whole process happens for all of us. And more than anything, I want to normalize that. And that's what I talk about in my community all the time. What I've realized being on the back end, I've sat in rooms now with women who are making millions and even like hundreds of millions. And they are all going through this. And that's like the good news and the bad news. Because it's like, wait, I thought that what you said about the success, it's like, it's black and white. Either they're successful and they know all the things, they're doing all the things, and their life is unicorns and rainbows, or it's not. But that's not true. Everybody's operating in the gray all the time. And the most successful entrepreneurs are continuously experimenting. You don't always see it, that they are continuously experimenting. And where people get strapped is like when you reach a certain level of success, you feel like you can't publicly experiment. And so that's where actually people trip over their own feet. So if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, they are experimenting in public and letting themselves still continue to do that, which the creative process. I don't open very many emails, Rachel, but I open your emails. So for everybody listening to this podcast, I'm sure they're on your email list, and I hope that they get on your email list. There's just not very many emails that I open, and I don't stay on very many email lists, but I stay on yours because I'm learning things and I'm entertained. Like, I want to open your emails. And so we know that as creatives, we have to let ourselves keep having fun and playing. And there's scientific reason behind that, which we can get into if you want to. But the most successful people let themselves keep playing in the gray and get out of the black and white. Like, talk about a dysregulating thought, black and white, success or not. That thought alone is dysregulating. Because a regulated nervous system is operating in the gray. It's operating in the in-between. We think of regulation as like, I'm calm. No, that's just suppression, babe. That's not regulation. Regulation is you are able to toggle on the both sides of your nervous system, between fight and flight and freeze. You're dancing in the in-between. That's an actual regulated nervous system, is I can flow all day between these different states. It's not just being calm. I threw a couple things out there. So tell me what you want to dig into.
No, first of all, thank you. That was very kind of you to say about my emails. I agree with you completely that the idea of experimentation by definition means that you have to be ready to fail in public. Like that's what that means. And we cannot get to the other side of what works until we see what doesn't work. Like, that's just part of the process. But I want to dig into this idea of flowing between fight, flight, freeze, because those are not necessarily topics that I have dug into so much on this podcast. And people listening may have different levels of awareness of what all this means, like what this whole discussion around nervous system regulation, like, can you give a little 101 on what all these terms mean and how we should think about them?
Yeah, super. I'm like rubbing my hands. I'm like, hell yeah, let's dig into that. So yes, you have various states of your nervous system. You have the sympathetic nervous system and you have the parasympathetic nervous system. So you may or may not have heard these terms, but sympathetic we can think of as fight, flight, freeze. Parasympathetic we can think of as rest and digest. It's not actually as simple as that because nothing is. But when we look at it from a simplification state, we can say, okay, there's rest and digest and there's fight, flight, freeze. This is where I like to really just put some nuance to this, is that we think of fight, flight, freeze, bad. Parasympathetic, rest and digest, good. Not true. Both are necessary. And as an entrepreneur specifically, we need to be able to toggle between both, because the fight, flight, freeze, like, that's what puts you into action. That's your nervous system saying, let's go. And parasympathetic is like, let's be open and receptive. So both states are absolutely necessary because we've got to get things done. And in the open receptive state, that's where creative ideas come in. That's where the visioning comes in. That's where we're open to new ideas and wondrous, cool things that we hadn't thought of before. So ultimately, a regulated nervous system is you toggling between the let's go and the openness. So it's like push and open, push and open. So a lot of times we are stuck in one or two. And most people are stuck in the sympathetic. We're stuck in that fight, flight, freeze. And there's so many reasons for that. Just simply looking at your phone activates your sympathetic nervous system. So me and you looking at this screen, if we aren't intentionally taking some deep breaths, finding our seat beneath us, finding our feet on the floor, feeling your hands on the desk, and present here with one another, looking eye to eye as much as we can through a Zoom screen, then we're activated in our sympathetic.
Yeah, we're all in sympathetic all the time because we're all just on our phones constantly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we live in a world where right now, more than anything, we've got AI, we've got all of this automation happening. The big opportunity for us as entrepreneurs, and listen, business owners, every single one of the people listening is a business owner, creativity is what is needed from you. Like you being you and opening up to being in that receptive mode, that is what is needed from you. So we are working now as humanity. We've gone really into this doer energy. We needed to be button pushers for many years. That's just been the era of your grandparents, your great grandparents, your parents, button pushers. We don't need to button push anymore. Where we're moving is humanity being receptive to new ideas that are coming from the quantum field. That's what we're moving into. And so when you're in your parasympathetic, you're open to that. And we can be open to that and then go take action on things and experiment. And so that's where we toggle between the two.
I love it. Thank you. That was such a good explanation. So when it comes to selling, can you talk about what does a dysregulated nervous system look like when someone's trying to sell? And then what does a regulated nervous system look like?
It does depend on the person. One of the things that I like to do and that we do as soon as somebody comes into my community is that I have them take an archetype quiz, which helps you to understand a little bit about yourself and what the best archetype is for you in terms of how you show up and what your magnetism is. So we all have different things. Like I'm a sage. I like to teach. So that's my magnetic energy. Some people are luminaries where all they need to do is show up and be there. And so selling will look different. My different archetypes are, some people are weavers, which is where you are connecting with other people. You're a natural connector. I think, Rachel, you have a very strong weaver energy. We've all got all of these energies, by the way. And then there's strategists who are very like, this is the way that we do things. and they're the people who outline the structures for us. They're like very framework people. So depending on your energy, the way that you sell best is going to be different. So I just want to start with that. Now, regulated versus dysregulated. Dysregulated selling could look like you feeling pushy. Like, I know that you need this. Try this. This is something that I know is going to work for you. That's dysregulated sales. Whereas regulated would sound like, this is something that has worked for me, and I'm so excited to share it with others because I know that it's been so powerful in my life. That's regulated sales, speaking from your experience, your lived experience, and sharing with others. So at a base level, that's always going to be from a more regulated place because it's honest, it's truthful, it's from your experience. You're not making claims for other people. This is one of the ones, go look at your sales and look at where you do this. We all fall into this one, saying, I know this is going to work for you. Dysregulated sales.
Quick pause. Can we talk about content for a second? If you're staring at a blank screen more often than you're hitting post, it might be because you're trying to create content that doesn't fit your actual strengths. It's kind of like wearing someone else's jeans. They may look super good on your friend, but you put them on and they are not comfortable and they just aren't doing your butt any favors. That's why I created the Content Marketing Power Type Quiz. It's free and it helps you figure out the kind of content you were made to create. The kind of content that feels natural, sustainable, and actually connects with your people in a way that lights you up. In just 45 seconds, or maybe even 30 if you're quick about it, you're going to find out your power type and get custom recommendations to make content feel easier and more effective. Head on over to honeybeebold.com/quiz. That's HoneyBeebold.com/quiz. Take it and then DM me your result because I kind of need to know. All right, let's dive back into the episode. Yeah, I actually just had a conversation with someone yesterday. We were in a coaching program together a while back, and I have no ill will towards the coach who runs this program, but we were discussing how in her marketing, she's very like claims based and basically says, if you sign up for this program, you will get, whatever number months, because I don't want to give anything away. But, she actually puts a number on it, like how much money you will make per month if you sign up for her program. And we were talking about how when you have such claims-based marketing and you're selling from that place, it winds up feeling very disingenuous because if you enter the program or you buy the product or you sign up for the service and you don't get that result, it's going to leave you feeling really icky, even if you get something different that's amazing. And even if you get something that is very valuable. But if it's not that thing that was promised to you, it can feel like you didn't get what you wanted. And so on the selling side, I think that it can lead to a lot of that feeling of feeling pushy. And I think the other side of pushy is feeling desperate, right? That like feeling of, if I don't get this sale, my business is going to fail or something like that, right? Feeling this desperation that I need to get this person to buy from me. And I think that just never leads to anywhere good.
Yeah, because you're not ultimately, what I started this conversation with is it's about the other person. It's not about you. And it's about their belief in what they can do. So if you sell from a place of, I'm going to get you to 20K months, I'm going to get you there. If you join this, you're going to get there. Think about what that does to their nervous system. Now they're in, I'm not there, I need to be there. And by the end of this program, I've got to get there. Otherwise, I'm a failure. So we've dysregulated their nervous system from the get-go. Now you've got dysregulated buyers. Now you've got dysregulated people who are coming into your program, who are basing their value on getting that outcome. And when they're not getting it, they're going to be in stress. And so they're not going to be thinking creatively, and they're not going to be open and receptive. They're going to be taking action from a closed place. And so the creative ideas that are ultimately going to get them to the 20K months are not going to happen in your program. So you're really setting not just your buying process up for a lack of success, but if people even do come in from that energy, trust me, I've seen it in coaching programs. When people come in from that energy, they do not have a good experience. And there's nothing wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with your program. It's the energy in which they arrived, the energy in which you pulled them in from that energy. So we noticed this as a sales team, that when we pulled them in from whatever energy they came in with was the energy that they stayed with through the program. And so when we're selling, remember that you're always speaking to their highest and best that they know is possible for themselves. It's not about what you think is possible for them at all. Take yourself out of it. It's about what they think is possible for themselves, and you're talking them up into that so that they can then make a buying decision. And I honestly don't care what you're selling. This is true across the board. From an empowered 100%. Sales point, like, it's about them stepping into their power, not the belief that you're holding for them. You don't have to hold for them, ladies. We don't have to hold for anybody.
Yeah. No, and I think this is that intersection between my work and your work is like on the marketing side, I always say, you know, if you're not using the language that your dream clients are using, if you're using the language that you think that they need to hear, you've lost them already, right? You need to be really listening to what it is that they want to get, right? What is the transformation that they want to see, and what are the actual words that they're using? And so this is where, like, really paying attention in your, you know, in your sales calls, in your just networking calls, when you talk with colleagues and they're talking about challenges that they're facing that relate to the work that you do, when you're talking to whoever, right? You're talking to existing clients, like really, really listen to the words that they're using, because that's going to help you match the language that is going to speak to them. And I think that that's true on the marketing side and on the sales side. And like, it needs to match up with what they want to get out of what you have to offer.
Absolutely. You're such a marketing genius. That's exactly right. And there's this, especially when we're entrepreneurs and we're doing all the things ourselves, unless we've hired the beautiful Rachel to support us, which might be a good idea. But when we're trying to do it all, we really get marketing and sales tangled up. They're two different beasts that ultimately work really well together. And so that marketing lens of listening to the words, what I recommend, and I'd love to hear your thoughts genuinely about this too, is in the marketing, what I recommend is a lot of that allowing of experimentation, which again, if we're not in a regulated nervous system, if we aren't able to support ourselves in toggling between those states, then we're going to have a hard time doing that experimentation that is necessary for us to find our way to the marketing message that actually lands. So what I'm recommending for a lot of business owners in 2026 is get comfortable experimenting, because I think we're just in a stage right now where that's what we need to be doing in our businesses, is starting to understand what is the message that's genuinely landing. And what you mentioned about really listening, we got to open up those listening ears. And that's challenging for most people, especially when we're thinking from a lens of, I'm not safe. or I'm afraid that I might fail. So all of those things will stop us from being able to be open and receptive, which is listening too.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that this is something that I remind my clients of all the time, especially when we're talking about social media. And obviously, there are so many different parts of marketing, and social media is not it, but it is a pretty important piece of the puzzle for most businesses, I would say. And on social media, one of the things that I always remind people, and I've done a few posts about this, is like when you post something, it exists in people's feeds for like a blink of an eye. And the depressing part of that, like the part that can feel really depressing about that, is when you put a lot of effort into a reel, right? I speak with people, they're like, I spent 4 hours on this reel and then nobody interacted with it and nothing happened. And first of all, I say, like, you shouldn't be spending 4 hours on a reel. Like, let's not do that. But the really freeing part of that is that if you try something that totally flops, no one will remember tomorrow. Like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And so there is a beautiful part of this really tricky algorithm situation that we're all like in this tug of war with the algorithm all the time. But the beautiful part of it is that you have the space to experiment and you have the room to really just mess up and like show up however you want and play with something. And if it doesn't work, who cares? Show up again tomorrow and try something different and like just see what lands. And the things that land, like you're going to really attract your people to you, which is really powerful. So I agree with you completely on that.
Yeah. I mean, preach, sister. Absolutely. Nobody's going to remember, except I'm going to put an exception in there. Your brain's going to remember. You're going to remember. Your nervous system is going to remember. If you are not processing and being with your internal experience and allowing it to be felt all the way through. So I posted a reel. I posted something on social. This goes to sales and marketing, right? This is where it gets really muddy, right? Is that sometimes something we're sharing on social media is straight marketing. Sometimes it's a marketing with like a little sales move. You know, we've got the DM me for write the word, buy it.
Yeah.
To get whatever. So we've got that on there. If you did that, nobody comments, feels like a failure. What does your system internalize? What does your system reinforce? I'm stupid.
It says
nobody
it doesn't
cares.
work. Yeah.
It doesn't work. I'm a failure. What is the point of this business? And so if we ignore that and we just say, nobody cares anyway, I'm just going to keep doing it. And we don't really get with the feeling that is happening there for you and feel it. Like I said, just feel it all the way through and ask, why is this feeling arising for me? So we're not going to get deep into this today, Rachel, because it's like deep into my work, but our feelings all have a message attached. They all have a message attached. Your feelings come from a thought. This is the process that happens, is that we have a thought that creates an emotion, that creates a feeling. So that's how it's like, it's always moving through our system. So it's attached to words. Every feeling is attached to words. So if we begin to listen to our feelings and hear them, that's all they want. They just want to be heard. They just want to be held. They want to be felt. Everybody wants to be seen, heard, held, felt, including each of your emotions. They all do. And so if we feel them through, then the next time this happens and you reassure your system that you're okay, like it's okay. It's totally okay that that happened. I hear you. That felt terrible. I feel like an idiot. I hear you. Thank you so much for showing up and telling me that you feel like an idiot. Like you're talking to a child, you know, like a 5-year-old. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that sounds hard. That sounds really hard. It'll be like, yeah, it was hard. So if we get with our feelings and we feel it all the way through, the next time you go to post that reel that you worked so hard on and it fails, then all of that whole preschool of children that was like raging is a little bit quieter. And the next time it's a little bit quieter because it knows you're listening. It knows that you're aware. So that's the process that I teach in my nervous system regulation programs, is learning how to listen to the feelings that are arising in our actual physical experience that are stopping us from doing a thing again. Because one more thing about the brain, all the brain does this, it's a prediction machine. Recent science, the brain is a prediction machine. It is predicting the future based on past experience. So if past experience was, this was terrible, your nervous system freaked out, it shut down, then next time you go to do something, it's going to shut down before you even do it. And now you're stuck in freeze. And now you can't post at all. And now you're stuck in perfecting and spending 4 hours on a reel.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful because I think the other part of it is that when you can train yourself, right, you can speak to your nervous system and listen to your nervous system and have these conversations with your inner self. What winds up happening is that when you have that reel that quote unquote fails, actually it's an opportunity to learn some really powerful information. And it can actually become a really fun and regulating activity, right? Or a regulating thing that you just went through. Okay, I got some information here and now I can take that and I can learn from it. And this is like opportunity for more experimentation. So I just
Yes.
think that's super cool.
Well, now you've walked us home to play, because that's where we
Yes.
start to understand that life is play, entrepreneurship is play. When you were a kid, you used to have so much fun just trying things. You weren't worried about the outcome. You didn't have past experiences that your nervous system and your brain had taught you are bad or are failures, right? So now, once you get your nervous system cool again, back to how it was as a child, we can experience childlike wonder every day of our lives and in your business. And when we start to do that, that's when we start to see really cool opportunities. When new clients arrive like magic, the coolest clients start to arrive like magic, because now you've become magnetic in your business. Now you're able to be open enough to be listening and to be focused on the other person instead of self-protecting in everything that you're doing out there in your business. And every share that you're doing, it's not coming from a place of self-preservation. It's coming from a place of genuine love and care for other people, which is what I know we're meaning to do. Nobody goes into business because they don't care about people, because business is people, right? Yeah. You do at least care about one person, which is yourself. But the problem is that you're trying to preserve, it's that self-preservation, self-saving energy that nobody wants to buy from that energy. If you don't feel safe in yourself, then we don't feel safe buying from that person.
Absolutely. I experienced this myself. Like I went through this really, really rough patch in my business. I've talked about it a million times on the podcast, but I found myself going into these calls, even a networking call, like with this energy of desperation and this energy of like, so much pressure that I was putting on myself and on this conversation, and nobody wants to buy from there. And it was only when I was able to kind of shift that perspective. And I talked about this on a previous episode. I think it was the first episode of this season with my friend Jonathan Corrales. We talked about generosity and how that was the biggest game changer in my business, was to start to approach it from a place of generosity, where now I go into every conversation with someone saying to myself, but I say it to them too, like, I want to help this person however I can. And that can be within the context of this conversation. I just want to be generous to this person who has taken time out of their day to talk to me. And if I can help them by giving them even something as simple as a book recommendation, great. Like that was a successful conversation because we just had this exchange of energy, and it has changed everything because people are so attracted to that, right? People just want to, when we receive, we want to give. And when we give, we want to receive. Like it's just this beautiful exchange of energy.
I love that so much, and the way that you phrased it. And what I do that I learned from a mentor a long time ago, it's very similar, is to go into any conversation saying, may this conversation be for the highest and best of all, which honestly, that opens the door to generosity. So it's the same thing. So if you need a tool, what Rachel just said, or use this phrasing or come up with your own phrasing that creates an open door for any interaction that you have with any person, even if you can start playing with this, walk into a coffee shop and say, may this interaction be for the highest and the best of all. And see what changes for you when you start to move through the world expecting that every little conversation you have is going to be for the highest and best of you and the other person. What happens? When you say generosity, I think sometimes we get a little like, I say sometimes what I mean is me. We get a little weird about it, and over giving is not generosity, because a lot of times we're over giving from a place of self-preservation. We are trying to be okay inside. And so in order to feel okay, we've got to make sure that everybody else is okay. That's actually codependency. That's not generosity. And so we'll overgive to try to please everybody else and make sure that everybody else feels good and that everybody else is happy. And then we call that generosity. That's depletion caused by codependent behavior of you trying to be okay inside by making everybody else okay. That's not generosity. But that's what I used to think generosity was. So I just make that distinction because there is a difference between that overgiving that we tend to do in business. It's like, well, if I just make it better, if I give more, then they'll buy. If it's like even more time inside my container, then they'll buy. That is coming from a place of you feeling like you're not good enough or your offer isn't good enough versus be recognizing that you showing up in your fullest and highest and best and holding a container of space for people is you being generous. Like that is you opening up to listening and responding. That's a completely different generosity versus feeling like I need to give more so that they'll buy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful distinction. Very important. I think especially as women, we have a tendency to overextend ourselves and overgive. And I think it's a very, very important distinction. Let's get practical for a second. And we did, I think, just touch on this, but I'm curious if you have a different framing for this. If someone is about to hop on a sales call and they can feel their nervous system ramping up, I have this call on my calendar, I'm getting nervous, I really want to work with this person. Like this is a person who I'm excited about working with, but my nervous system is like, whoo, what's one thing that someone can do in that moment?
Twerk. You think I'm joking?
I just love it.
Twerk, 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 twerk. We hold control in between our thighs and in our hips and in that lower part of our body is control. So if you feel yourself amping up before something, you're probably gripping a little bit too much on the outcome. When we sit all day, think about this. And ladies, oh my gosh, we have been taught, I'm not getting on my soapbox about this, but maybe for a second, we've been taught to cross our legs. We've been taught to sit really tight in a ball, which completely blocks off your sacral chakra energy, which is the lower part of your energy, which makes you feel tight, which makes you feel unsafe. It's like super control energy. So the number one thing that you can do, and I don't care if you twerk, I didn't know how to twerk. I just actually heard this from somebody and was like, is this true? I'm going to start in the quiet of my own office trying this. It works. It works.
That's
Shake
amazing.
your hips.
I'm totally going to try that.
Hula hoop.
I love that.
Move the hips. That's the number one thing that you can do. So I'll share that first. Like shake out the energy. You can also just shake your body and then take a few deep breaths. If you just try to take the deep breaths, and I'm a breath worker. This is work that I do is help people to move energy through the breath. If you just go, I'm just going to calm down, you're just going to tighten up even more. Most people. So shake it out first, shake out the energy, whether you shake your hands, and then take some breaths and then feel your feet on the floor, feel your seat on the ground, and then say, I can't remember your generosity question, but mine, may this conversation be for the highest and best of all. Now you're in a state of open receptivity. You're grounded. You've shaken out that energy. You've released the control, released that tightness, and signaled safety to your body. Now you can be creative.
I love it. That's beautiful. What is one daily practice or ritual that you recommend to your clients to help regulate their nervous system so that selling feels easier over time? Like what's something that we can kind of build habit stack?
Yeah, I love habit stacking. I call it sprinkle stacking. One of the things that I recommend that people do is when you're in the energy of flow is you being in the parasympathetic. Flow happens, creativity happens, that happens when you're getting things done from a place, from that really yummy energy. We all know what that feels like when you're in that flow and things are just happening. Stack another thing on. Like when you think you're done, if you have the time and if you have the energy, you're feeling like, yes, do another. So if you're recording a podcast interview and then you get off, you're like, I'm so excited and in the flow, go record a solo episode, go record an Instagram reel, go live. You're already in the flow. You're already in that really yummy energy. So do it then, because later you're going to have to muster the energy. You're already in it. So I call that sprinkle stacking. That's something that can be really helpful and can get you used to what it feels like for you to do an activity that was hard from a place of flow. And you didn't have to get yourself there. You were already naturally there. And now I'm adding on something that might have previously felt difficult, like going live or recording a video of myself. I can do it when I'm already in that joyful state.
Ooh, I love that idea. And I'm totally going to record something else after this because this conversation has been so great. So to wrap things up, tell us where can people find you, and tell us about Expansion Room. I'm super excited about this.
Oh, thank you for the invitation to share about it. Yeah, I just opened up a community. Honestly, I hadn't been planning to open up a community, but I was closing out a cohort. My husband's helping me with my business for the very first time, and he was witness to a cohort of mine for the first time. He said, "You cannot let this end. You have to open up a community. This is so good." He's like, "These people are taking action. Like, you've got to open up a community." So I just opened up a brand new community at this time called the Expansion Room. And inside there, we're doing this work together. What I'm looking at for 2026 is we're experimenting. We're letting ourselves find the joy. We're letting ourselves have fun. We're letting ourselves experience what failure is so that we can be with our emotions and move through it. So that's what we're doing inside the Expansion Room. It's only $27 a month. And inside there, we also help you get that archetype and work with that archetype to find your magnetic energy. So that's what we're doing in there. It's a lot of fun. So if you're interested, you can go to jenliss.com/expand and go check it out.
I love it. Anywhere else that people can find you, that they should reach out to you or anything like that?
Yep. I've got a podcast called, can I curse, or should I?
You can. Yeah.
I have a podcast called Fuck Around and Get Paid. So come check me out there. I'm also on Instagram at jennifer.liss_. But you can just catch me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was so great. And I will give a little plug for your podcast. You are such a naturally gifted podcaster. I listened to your old podcast. I listened to your new podcast. You're just great to listen to. So anyone listening, please go check out Jen's podcast. Thank you so much. Okay, if that conversation didn't immediately make you want to go shake your hips and book a sales call, I don't know what to tell you. But seriously, Jen just gave us such beautiful permission to stop making sales so damn hard. The biggest takeaway for me personally is that when we are selling from a dysregulated place, we're in self-preservation mode, and nobody wants to buy from that energy. They just don't. But when we can regulate our nervous systems and get grounded and approach sales from a place of genuine care and generosity, and true generosity, not over giving of ourselves, that is when the magic happens. If you want more of the magical work that Jen does, please do go check out her podcast, Fuck Around and Get Paid. It is so good, you guys. And she just launched this new community she shared about called Expansion Room, where she is helping entrepreneurs experiment, play, and actually enjoy building their businesses. So I'm going to drop links in the show notes. Go check it out. And if this episode resonated with you, please send it to a friend who needs to hear it. We are all navigating this wild world of entrepreneurship together. And the more we can normalize these conversations, the better. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week. All right, beautiful human. That's a wrap on this episode of Bold Women in Business. This episode was brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, with music by Shmukulele. But before you go, don't forget to take the Content Marketing Power Type quiz at honeybeebold.com/quiz, because when your content fits your power type, showing up gets way easier and your marketing actually starts working for you. Until next time, stay bold, stay kind, and keep doing it your way.